occurred on April 14th. Since that time, we received peer review comments from Horsley Witten that were forwarded to the applicant regarding stormwater, and Dillis and Roy have provided responses to the staff memo from the planning department. And some of those responses do require plan changes, but the applicant understandably was waiting for the peer review comments before revisions were made. So we're still awaiting for response from that. The Horsley Witten comments were just forwarded to Dillis and Roy last Friday, so I don't think that they've had time to adequately address those, but I can let the applicant speak to that in greater detail.
Yes. Pam is correct. We received the stormwater peer review comments from delineated for the project and adjust my calcs slightly. I don't see it being a big change in the fact that all the stormwater is tributary to the golf course itself. And from what I'm looking at their comments, it's just believe it's gonna make me just look at a larger overall area of the golf course, but the overall change to the calculation conclusion, it shouldn't be that different. Basically, where with the impervious area that's been removed from the project, it's likely that we'll continue to have the same reduction in overall volume and flowing onto the golf course itself. So I'm just I'm changing some of the numbers that are being presented. They also asked for calculations demonstrating that there's sufficient capacity in the stormwater system we're proposing for the subsurface pipes, which all pull together and provide that. And then it's the wrong letter. Yeah, there was. I didn't feel that there was anything in their comments that really, would drastically change the design. In general, one of my main responses, they they had mentioned a couple times that their opinion was that we should look at some additional infiltration measures in the stormwater design. And my opinion is that given that we're having a reduction in stormwater volume, um, with this project, we're achieving that. In general, with stormwater, when you'll often an engineer will often present a project that has a decrease in peak flows, but if you look at the stormwater volumes from existing to proposed, those are higher. So, which essentially means that there's you can have less flow, but it's happening longer. In this case, I have a reduction in the stormwater flows, the overall flow rates, and reductions in the stormwater volume. So that means that stormwater runoff is there's less of it overall, and it's going at a lower rate, which essentially means that we've increased groundwater recharge through the change in curve number on the property. But I'll present that um, again with the changes that they've requested.
Okay, when do you think you'll be able to get back to us?
So I'm thinking I'd be able to get something back, I would think by the 29th. Um, which yeah, by the 29th, which is would be next Wednesday. I've started to work on them. I just need to make sure I get everything covered.
Pam, when's our next meeting scheduled? Not the 29th, right?
We have meetings scheduled for May 13th and May 27th.
So our first meeting is roughly 2 weeks after you would submit that on the 29th, right?
Yes. Um, yeah, that's correct.
So we would have another continuation.
Uh, Potentially, yeah. Yes. On behalf of my client, I'm going to ask because I have to ask if this is the situation where the board would consider a conditional consider a conditional decision, pending a clean letter from Horsley Witten, assuming that the the town planner comments were um, sufficiently addressed.
Pam, do we have a precedent for this? Your thoughts on this?
You probably would be more familiar than myself. I haven't been involved in that kind of approval based on revised plans. There's a number of outstanding conditions, and I usually have time to get a draft of a decision of a decision prepared for the board's review, and we haven't gotten to that step yet, so I don't know that I'd be completely comfortable at this point in time. But of course, it's the board's decision.
Mike Gore, you have much more experience on this board than I do. What's your perspective?
No, we typically wouldn't do that. I assume that there's some you guys want to start moving on the project.
Oh,
And that's-
yes, yeah, and
Yeah.
then it's not
Yep.
often that a board grants that, but
Yeah.
I wouldn't be doing my job if I didn't ask on behalf of the client. So um,
There's just a lot of unknowns that are still
Yep.
in flux, and it could run into a situation, that's all.
that's understandable, Pam. Um, um, would there be any use in going through your letter as well tonight, or
Sure.
yeah,
The only, I reviewed and distributed your response to the board, and the only question I had was how much information we actually needed regarding the structures, because there's just a whole, for the structure area, there was just one figure given for the site, and I had requested a table for each individual building to determine what square footage was accounted for. I can share your response.
oh, so
And if the board's comfortable with how the table's presented, I don't know that we need to push on that. But I think the existing structure area that was provided in your review letter incorporates the buildings that were demolished.
yeah, so that maybe I should revise that so that it's existing as of a point in time. Um, Put a date and then a date on the proposed. I know that this table will help any future applications as well, because this has kind of been a nebulous number on the course.
Yeah, I
But
haven't seen any in the previous files either, so.
yeah, a lot of what I've
requested it.
seen in the past has kind of relied on, um, you know, as part of this work, we've knocked down this much square footage and we're putting this much back up. So we were previously in compliance, and so we're still in compliance. But yeah, this would, I can slightly modify this table and put it on the plan sheet just with, just to kind of cement the existing and proposed numbers and on a certain date.
Well, I mean, existing is existing as of the submission of this letter, right?
No,
So the existing, um, I wanted to take credit for the previous, for the demolished buildings that have been recently not knocked down.
Pam, I defer to you.
I believe they're doing that for stormwater purposes, and I'm okay with that. I just want it to be clear in the application that, because as of, I think the structures were knocked down slightly over a year ago. According to the aerial photos I checked on Mass Mapper, I just want it to be clear what
Yep.
we're working with. You're
And
still under the
I can,
required percentages.
I can add a note to cover that, Pam, so that this is clearly defined at a point in time and what we were counting.
Okay, so get back to my original question, which is, what is that point of time going to be?
So I would say that point of time, let me see if I can check a date on a plan. 1 second, I'm gonna step off.
I checked aerials in 2023 and the buildings were there, and then in spring of 2025, they were gone, so
Yeah,
I know that it's between that time period.
2023 is a safe date. Let me see.
provisions. We just clarified that a building permit would be required for a retaining wall. That's really out of the board's jurisdiction. We're just noting.
Pam,
the-
is there a reference to, um, the fact that if it is not specifically noted as a use in the land use table, it cannot be a use?
Yeah, it's, I don't know why I can't click on them.
It's the third bullet there.
Yeah, it's a third, I don't know why my screen is, not letting me.
That's okay. We've got it, right?
Yeah, it's there.
Okay, but there's a CMR reference to that?
No, it's just land use law. I can, find the determinations if you need it in there.
Well, I'd like to have it available. There may be some contention about that.
Okay.
But I mean, that's how it exists today though, right?
Absolutely.
So, I mean, we're not changing anything.
We're not
tonight,
changing
right?
it.
Yeah.
No, but I think there may be reaction to, well, if you haven't specified that it isn't, why can't it be? And the reaction is, this is
Mm.
case law.
Okay.
And I'd like to be prepared based on some of the conversations that have occurred, in the last couple of months about that. To respond to that. We don't necessarily have to put it on the slide. But it would be nice to have it in the back pocket.
Yeah, sure. Our attorney will be there as well
Okay,
to back that.
that's
confirmation.
good. Okay, moving on.
So Bob, are you gonna present that one or all of them or?
Well, I'll be glad to present. If other people want to step in, I'd be delighted to have them. Mike?
I mean, I'm happy to do whatever, so
Okay,
we can talk offline.
okay, that's fine. But I think we need to review it all now and make sure that we're all happy with it.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's good if you do Article 10, if you've had discussions with people who are gonna have specific questions, then I would just call you up for that anyway, so.
Okay,
So you at least do 10, or maybe you do 10 and 11, and I do, I mean, yeah. 12, 13, and 14 are all, well, 12 and 13 are fine, 14 should hopefully be fine.
okay.
And the meeting is on on the 27th at 7 p.m. Is that right?
No, this
No,
is
May.
town meeting.
This is
on
town meeting on Monday, the 4th.
May
Oh.
4th at
I think
7
that-
o'clock at the
I think
high
I-
school.
Information session. I think I was getting that confused with.
Right. And I think the last bullet here is, very important. That we will be somewhat flexible and reasonable in this, but there are ways that it can be mitigated, such as convex mirrors. Okay, any further comments on Article 11? Next, Pam? This is non-negotiable.
No, inclusionary zoning. I
Yeah.
just included the state definition of allowable criteria under 40B.
Yeah.
That's the only change to that one. And then moderator way. And just to give you an update, which is kind of independent of the street acceptance, but The detention ponds were all cleaned, the drainage lines were cameraed, the storm scepters and manholes were cleaned out as well. And everything is in good condition. So we have about $15,000 left in the account, and DPW and myself are gonna work through some of the remaining items and prioritize to the board what we have left and can complete within the funds available.
What is the probability of getting it all?
I think it's pretty good. There's just there's some trees that didn't get planted or died. There's some brick and mortar that needs to be repaired within the catch basins. That's probably what we're gonna recommend be prioritized. And there's some riprap that needs to be installed in the detention ponds. So just those three things were the remaining tasks that we'd recommend, but we need to get pricing on
Yeah.
those, and we'll forward it to the board for your information.
Okay. Sounds like that'll be straightforward. I
Yeah,
think
the
that
big thing-
question will come up to, are there enough funds to cover it? And if not, how is it going to be prioritized and what are the implications to the town?
Yeah, that's gonna independent of this vote, but
Right, yeah, but
We're gonna get the questions.
Yeah.
we are,
but just so
I
you
mean,
you know.
Yeah, we own it
we
either
may
way, so.
emphasize that.
right.
Yeah.
But I think, realistically though, Mike, whether we own it or not, there are some things that need to happen. And if they're at the top of the prioritization list and we have the funds remaining to do it, that's a great answer. Okay, any other comments? If not, let's go on to agenda item 3, the bond figure for South Bolton Estates, Fosford.
This is for Sanders Lane. He's gonna be requesting the lots be released for covenants. So in order for us to do that, he has to provide a security agreement. This is just setting the amount for that security agreement, and then he'll take this amount, provide security to the board, and request the lots be released once the appropriate security is provided.
And what form of security is he promoting at this point?
We don't know yet.
Um,
I believe he's gonna do a bond.
Okay. Not a Hanover Insurance.
I'm not sure. We can't.
No,
So,
I,
but Horsley
neither
Witten-
here nor there, but yeah, I don't yeah, it's weird that we have no choice in that matter, but is the only difference is because if they do like, why wouldn't they always do insurance? But I suppose they
They
can't
most
ever
often
get,
do.
but they can't get any sort of a, like when they do a bond, they can get money given back to them as they complete work
Yes,
for good or for ill.
that's any
right.
kind of security. They can request periodic releases as works completed.
If it's an insurance policy too, they can.
They can do, well, the way they fund the security policy is annually, so typically that's not done more than once a year. But any type of security that is provided to the board, they can request be reduced as the work's completed. We can put limits on the amount of time that be considered, but typically they don't do it more than once a year, usually.
so they just simply reduce the face value of the policy?
Yes, and then they have to provide a new security agreement to reflect the reduced amount, and they don't have to pay as high of a fee to renew it for the next year. This is a smaller project, so I don't know. I don't think it'll go on too long, but they have to pay a percentage of the security amount per the insurance agreement. And so they typically do that on an annual basis. So when next year comes around, it would be likely that he'd request a reduce, if it's not done, he'd request another reduction to reflect additional work that's been completed.
Okay. And do you know what the basis of this was? Is this a means calculation or?
Horsley Witten did this based on Mass DOT, and I also sent it to Randy for his review.
Okay,
And then what, we multiply this by like 1.5?
well, they already have a contingency,
No,
right?
they
Yeah,
included
but
a 20% contingency.
yeah, but don't we require some? I thought we made them do 1.5x what the number was.
I'm not aware of that.
People have definitely complained about that in the past. If Eric shows up, he might know the answer to that.
I'll look real quick. It's not hard to.
So Mike, over and above the contingency, they threw in another 50%?
Basically, yeah.
Wow.
Mike, I think you're right. If my thoughts, my memory
Yeah,
serves me.
developers have complained about it for sure.
Yeah,
Um,
yeah, I think you're right.
with the whole notion that like, I mean, it's like it's CME if or moderator way. If the town has to fund the work afterwards, the 20% isn't necessarily enough. The 20% really covers, inflation, maybe some other stuff. But not if the town takes it over. Which is a whole other discussion we should have at some point about having that better in our zoning or bylaws or something.
What, a multiplier?
I mean, not only that, but just like what is the process? As far as I'm concerned, the town should never really be on the hook for, a derelict developer. But like that's what's happened over the past few years. So
Well,
and
I
it's
talked to Pam about the possibility of doing a remaining cost analysis and look at the bond in view of what remains as opposed to a bond that starts with the beginning of the subdivision project. Cost to complete, in essence, the way a commercial project would be handled.
But right, Bob. But also too, at what point of the project are we talking about? 75% or 60%. What are your thoughts on that one? Because it's not like it's like one building that's going up. It's multiple buildings
Right.
or housing rather.
And this
so it
one is a
seems.
smaller project, so I'm not as worried about it. But like Moderator Way was a good sized project, and
That's
CME was
that,
obviously
that's what I
a
mean.
huge project. And it's like, so if we get the number wrong at the start of the project, then we're just like screwed for till the end of time because of that.
Right.
And I think that's why maybe we just use that 1.5 multiplier on
There
bigger
is,
developments.
it's not, I don't see it in there.
Okay.
And I reviewed it before I sent it to the consultant.
Well, I mean,
I don't
all
know.
they have is just a 20% contingency, right? There's no
Yeah.
multiplier.
I mean, I
Yeah.
think another thing too is the phases. Century Mill, for instance. I came in, 7/8 of the way through it, and it was phase 1, phase 2, phase 3, phase 4, and now one of the
Yeah.
phases isn't even around anymore, or
True.
who owns it or what have you. That got really complicated. I mean, at least Moderator Way, it they finished, so
Yeah, mostly.
mostly.
And I think the contention with Moderator Way was the amount of security, not the fact that we were collecting it.
In any case, to Mike's point, I think it's very worthy of a discussion and possibly revising our approach within the legal framework that the state allows.
I agree.
But again, coming from the
Yeah.
commercial side,
Oh, hang on. Eric just showed up here. So Eric, perfect timing. Can you hear us?
Yep. Yeah, I can hear you.
So I don't know if you heard what we were talking about, but coming up with the bond estimate for South Bolton Estates. And so the engineer has put in a 20% contingency onto the thing. And I feel like we used to have some kind of a 1.5 multiplier.
Yeah, we always did a 1.5 multiplier.
And is that written down somewhere, or that's just like that's what we did?
I'm not sure if it was written down, but that's what we did for sure.
Well, if we
Maybe-
have precedent, I mean, we've had a lot of pain.
So
and
now,
you-
yeah. And now, Eric, did we have a contingency on top? So in this case, they put in a 20% contingency, right? So
I think
it's
instead of the 20%, it would be just, we always did like 1.5 off of the bond.
okay. So we would take, in this case, the number was 465,000, and we would do
What did you
1.5.
use to calculate the bond? Did you use prevailing wages?
No,
I don't know about that.
no, I don't know. We didn't. That's why we did the 1.5, because we
Okay, because
said
this is the estimate Horsley Witten provided is Mass DOT's.
it's prevailing wage.
yeah,
Yeah,
it must
Oh
be.
wow. Okay, that's a game changer.
Okay,
Yeah.
so then that, Wait.
that usually is like an approximate 30%
Okay.
increase in costs. It's not in our subdivision regs, but I can look at some other bond estimates.
Yeah, like the
Prevailing
moderator way
wage
one
on
would be a
on
good.
on a residential. Okay, sorry.
What's that?
I
Jim?
was going to say prevailing wage on it's a residential.
Well, we
Yeah.
have to estimate what it would cost the town to complete the work if we were
Yeah,
to take
that-
it over.
Oh, okay, all right.
Yeah. So that the
Get my-
purpose is for us to be able to collect the funds and complete the work. So we have to use calculations that we would have to pay.
That makes sense. That makes absolute
Yeah,
sense.
so I think if they're prevailing wages and they add a 20% contingency, that probably gets us close to the 1.5 that we were doing before.
but Eric, was the 1.5 based on a means calculation? Not prevailing wage?
I mean, I don't remember. I'm
I,
sorry.
I
Like,
don't think it was prevailing wage. I
It
don't
wasn't.
ever
I
It
don't
wasn't.
think so. Yeah.
No, it was. I believe it was. Oh God, what project was that on that we talked about that? It was I just think we up it just to cover the town?
Well, I mean, if the town does it, they're gonna have to do it at prevailing wage. And if they did it
Mhm.
with a means calculation, I wouldn't be surprised if 50% just covered it.
Yeah.
So if this was done with prevailing wage, I'm comfortable with 20%.
Yeah, I agree.
Ducharme, the moderator way was done by Ducharme and Dillis, and they don't cite their cost estimate source. And it was done in 2019, so it's really hard to figure out.
Yeah. And we need to vote on this tonight, right? Because they, I assume, want
Yes.
to get a surety in. Okay. I mean, yeah, this isn't a huge project, and I think if they're using prevailing wage with a 20% contingency, I'm okay with that.
Yeah, that's good on my end as well. That covers
Okay.
it.
This isn't a public road, right? This is just a common driveway.
No, I can bring up the plans. It's a cul-de-sac, a small cul-de-sac that is proposed to be accepted by the town, and then there's a common driveway off the
Oh,
cul-de-sac.
okay.
So they just changed and everything's all over the place, so just give me a sec.
Where's the location for this?
It's
Like-
off of South Bolton Road.
Okay.
They have 2 homes up, they just haven't sold. So now they have offers on an offer on one of the homes, and they had requested it be released, but we need to get the security amount in place, and then they'll provide us with a performance agreement. So it'll be before you again, but they need this amount solidified before they can get the insurance bill.
This is Harris Lane, is that what they're calling it?
Sanders Lane.
Sanders Lane.
And we walked this, didn't we?
Not
Yeah.
with me. I don't know if you have.
No, it was a long time ago.
It was a while ago. I definitely went out
I went
myself,
out.
but I don't remember if we did it as a, or maybe I couldn't make the walk.
And there's a lot of wetlands, if I recall correctly. Yep,
Yeah, it was down in the back.
yep,
Yeah, okay, I remember walking this. Yep.
yep. How long is the road, out of curiosity?
Let me check the station number. It's
It's
under
pretty
500
short.
feet. Yeah.
It's not very long.
Oh, that, I remember that, yeah.
Yeah, they had all the drill points, right, for the wells.
Yep.
328
system,
feet
yeah.
to the center of the cul-de-sac.
And this property abuts CME, I think. Is that right?
It does, yes. The
Okay.
the open space abuts some of the open space on CME and some of the lots as well.
Mhm.
These two homes have been constructed and there is a foundation in on this property back here. Lot 2.
Okay. Now that we understand the relatively short length of the road and cul-de-sac. Again, I'm reasonably happy. Should we have a vote on this to authorize it?
I will make a motion to approve the bond cost estimate provided by Horsley Witten Group for South Bolton Estates in the amount of $558,056.40.
Wow.
Second.
Robert Romer,
Aye.
Austin Groner,
I
Michael Gore,
Aye.
Michael Lau,
Aye.
James Barr,
Aye.
and Eric Nyland. You're here too.
Aye.
That passes by vote, unanimous vote.
Okay, moving on to Tadmore. The peer review account release. Want to briefly go through that?
Yes, we still have money in the account for Goose Pond Path for peer review. The roadway was accepted at the 2025 annual town meeting. And the subdivision security was provided for the affordable unit at the intersection of Main and Forbush. And the rest of the security can be released. He actually never requested a bond reduction. So we still are holding securities, and we don't need to because we have ownership of this roadway and infrastructure.
How much? So there's the peer review money that there's still money in there, and then there's also the security
Correct.
bond.
There's the bond agreement that's still in place for the 253,000.
For the affordable
then-
housing, right? Yeah.
No, it's for the infrastructure of the subdivision. We have the other one in place separately. That's not part
Yeah,
of this.
they just never came to us. They were the quietest subdivision
Wow.
I think we've ever worked with. Like they never
Yeah.
once, they just did their work and then never came to us for any bond release.
They requested the bond release, but we had to make sure the affordable Security was in place before we released the remaining money, so that's all been done, and I think they just kind of, we forgot about it. So they have 253,000 in the security agreement with the bonding company, and then there's $2,952.90 in the peer review account remaining.
Do we
I
vote on those
oftentimes
separately?
just, I misplaced $250,000 a lot. It happens.
They must be doing really well.
So this money just belongs to the town now?
No,
No.
it's held and we're required to. The security agreement is just the insurance bond that's in place. For the remaining work, it must, I guess is up for renewal, and it prompted the request for a release. It's $256,380. He's requested that be released. And then the peer review 53G account it was collected for engineering review of the subdivision and then inspectional services, and that's all been completed and we own it now, so we can't keep those funds. We have to release them back to the developer per the statute.
Got it. Got it.
Do you need exact dollar amounts, Pam, or just a motion to release the
You-
funds?
Just for the record's sake, I think it's better to have the exact dollar amounts.
What was the peer review dollar amount? 2,900?
It was $2,952.90.
Okay. And
The security amount was $256,380.
anything else to talk about with these?
Out here.
I will make a motion to release the 53G peer review account funds for Tadmore definitive subdivision in the amount of $2,952.90.
Second.
Robert Romer,
Aye.
Eric Nyland,
Aye. Aye.
Austin Groner,
I
Michael Gore,
Aye.
James Barr.
Aye.
That passes by a vote of 5-0.
And I will make another motion to release the security bond for Tadmore definitive subdivision in the amount of $256,380.
Second.
Robert Romer,
Aye.
Eric Nyland,
Aye.
Austin Groner,
I
Michael Gore,
Aye.
and James Barr.
Aye.
The vote passes 5-0.
Okay. On to release of driveway security for 24-8 Butternut Lane.
This was requested back in the winter, but we didn't recommend release due to the significant snow cover that was on the ground, but it's been inspected continually and it meets the driveway requirements. DPW has confirmed that they support release of the $1,000 security.
Any comments, questions? I think it's pretty straightforward. Do I hear a motion for the release of the driveway surety?
So moved. Well, I'll
Second.
make a motion. I will make a
Thank you.
motion to release the driveway surety for. Was that
6
BP
Butternut
dash-
Lane.
It's 6 Butternut Lane?
Yes.
Okay, I'll make a motion to release the driveway surety for 6 Butternut Lane in the amount of $1,000.
Robert
Second.
Romer? Oh,
Aye.
I'm sorry.
Need a second.
I also seconded it.
Robert Romer,
Aye.
Eric Nyland,
Aye.
Austin Groner,
I
Michael Gore,
Aye.
and James Barr.
Aye.
Securities released by a vote of 5-0.
Okay. Pam, on to your Forest Mill study area. It's progressed very well. We need to start thinking about next steps. Do you want to walk through it? I assume
Just if-
everybody's seen it. It's an update from the last time she posted it.
Just if the board has comments. Think I forgot anything or any significant revisions need to be made? I realize it's still in pretty rough format, but I was gonna start writing the bylaws.
No, I thought it was fine. I hope everybody read through it. I mean, it's a very nice summary of where we stand and what the challenges are. And what our specific recommendations, how they may be formulated. It is
So
going to be challenging. I mean, that's to take into consideration existing homes and businesses and then look at a area ratio approach. You know, it's almost something that would be great if one developer got it and figured out how to do it, but probability is low. Maybe not.
Alright, so I'll start writing I've been doing some research and things, but I'll get more concrete drafts together. A lot of our mixed use bylaw would be relevant, but we don't have, it seems like we would want to put a cap on the housing aspect of it. That's the impression I got from the public input and other boards that we've consulted with, as well as your input, obviously. So as long as we're in agreement with that, I'll start to put some requirements in place.
Sounds good.
Okay.
Has there been any further discussion about the DPW land? I mean, that would be incorporated, right?
Yes. We just mentioned that it would be considered for relocation
Right.
of the garage. That's all that was. We didn't get into specifics other than the project inventory sheets.
Okay. I'm not sure anybody's ready for another bond to cover a DPW facility.
Not from what I've read on Facebook.
Can stay off that. It's bad for your body.
It's your first mistake. Yeah.
I go on once every 6 months, and it's to read about read
People
about
yelling.
taxes.
All right.
Okay.
Well, it's there if you want to go in and put comments, and I'm probably gonna write the bylaw in a separate document and then incorporate it in as we.
Well, please go
Yeah.
back and read it. I mean, Pam's put a lot of time into this and done very, very well, and it deserves at least a review and potentially input from the board.
It's all right. I'm not insulted. Just look at it before we post it. That's all.
Thank you.
Yeah, our website was recently revised, so we've been going through the last week or so and trying to make sure all our information's there. So if you see things or have problems with this links, or please let us know, because it didn't transition smoothly. So it's a work in progress right now.
It never does, but I will say I can see the what the vision of it is, and I get it. I think it's going to work out well.
Yeah.
OneDrive change as part of that, Pam? 'Cause I will say I've had an easier time getting into the links that you send. Like previously, when I would click on the links, like half the time it would time out or I'd get weird errors. But everything this week worked great.
I
This-
don't know. I've had a lot of issues with it myself. I
Yeah.
don't think it's related to the website transition, but
Okay.
um,
The website certainly looks different,
Looks better.
and navigation is very different.
Yes.
yeah.
Anyway, old habits die hard, particularly when you're elderly like me.
Me.
Okay, shall we move on to the HPP?
Just wanted to provide you an update. We met and went over some demographic data. We're gonna post those PowerPoint presentations that were reviewed on the Housing Production Planning Committee portion of the website as soon as we work out some of the kinks to it. And then you can review that data. There was some interesting demographic data as well as the affordability, particularly as it relates to seniors. MAPC and myself are going to take all the data and put together a draft of the housing needs assessment. And we are also working on a draft of a community engagement plan to reach out to the public and make sure we get adequate community input on what the town residents would like to see in terms of housing.
What sort of surprises did you see in demographics?
I think the senior population was the most surprising. 33% of our seniors, our residents are seniors, and I think it was 35% of them are spending more than 30% of their income on their housing costs, which is what the state determines to be affordable. So that's been the most highly impacted demographic that resides in town. We've also heard that publicly when we met with the Council on Aging. We're going to do a lunch with the seniors to get additional input. But people trying to downsize are having limited options and difficulty trying to stay in town. We also went over the affordable rents for Alta versus the market rents, and those were pretty alarming. The affordable rents were pretty high, and the market rates were also pretty high. So with the disparity mostly between the 3 bedrooms, there wasn't as much difference between the 1 and 2 bedroom units. And that's where the higher demand has been for the affordable housing applications, is for the 3 bedrooms.
Really?
There's also an interestingly narrow gap between the minimum income required to be able to rent one of these units and the maximum that you're required to have to be considered affordable. It's a pretty small slice of income. So it's yeah, that was interesting to learn about.
That's presumably the state, right? I mean, that has nothing to do with us, right?
Yeah, and it also gives a like our subsidized housing inventory meets the state minimums, but it's kind of deceiving because 229 rental units in Alta qualify, but the rents are they're high, right? So
I was shocked.
What are
Yeah,
sorry, what are the numbers?
my mother-in-law was trying to like, you know, obviously I told her about it, and she can't afford, you know, she sold her house. She lives in Chelmsford, and she went over to the to a place on the Hudson Marlboro line. And you know, she was just like, I can't afford that area. So
Now, are they? Do you have a sense? Are they filling up? Are they, you know, are these just what the rates are now for other like other apartment buildings? I mean, I have no idea. I haven't rented in so long.
yeah, that they have the Alta projects have a number of rental projects throughout the Central Mass region, and they all seem pretty comparable. This
And do you have a
first top
sense-
table is the affordable rents for the 1, 2, and 3 bedroom, and then the market rates are below.
Yeah. Do you have a sense for what their occupancy rate is at this point?
I haven't touched base with them in a few weeks. They were at about 10% a couple weeks ago.
Seems low.
Wow.
And
Wait, 10% available, or they've filled 10%?
no, 10% rented
Yeah.
of the 229 of the total
Yeah,
project
so
unit
I
count.
mean, maybe that,
That may be high. How many of them are available?
So I'm gonna guess, I mean, keep in mind these numbers are a few weeks old, but that would be about 30 units rented. So there'd be about 200 available.
and they're all available at this point, is the point, like they're done?
The last I spoke with that,
Yeah.
yeah, they just received their last occupancy permit at the time we discussed the rentals.
Well,
Have you got any feeling of what they originally projected? For the speed at which
No,
they,
I just spoke with them in a site visit and they said it's not untypical for winter time, so they were hoping that the spring would result in that more leases or rentals. And I noticed that they have provided some incentives as well on the website.
okay. That's kind of interesting.
Do we have any idea on, children, like school age children, or is that something that's not recorded?
No, they're not allowed to ask that information. We'd have to get it from the school as they.
Yeah, okay. Just interested to know if there's any that have come in.
Yeah, it'd be interesting to see how that compares to their original projection. And the school's original projection.
I mean, back to the housing production plan. So is population wise, are they, so when was the last one done? 6 years ago, 7 years ago?
2021.
So, okay, 5 years ago.
Yeah.
What's the population between now and then of the town? Is it about the same?
It's increased, but not over what was projected, and not
Yeah.
significantly, within a few hundred people. I can get you those figures. I don't know. At
Yeah,
the top.
no, anecdotally, I had heard that it was pretty flat or just a little bit up.
Wouldn't both of those figures come from the same 2020 census?
No, we get an annual census from the
Yeah.
clerk's office that we can use.
Okay, well, thank you very much.
So there's interesting data in here. I'll send you the link once we get it posted.
Good. Good. Yeah, I'm, I'm very interested about, the way people view and the affordability of affordable housing.
Yeah, absolutely, Bob, because it's like they're not considering food. It looks
Yeah,
like the
I mean-
utilities, if I was reading that right.
It's consistently greater than my naive perspective of what ought to be affordable. So,
Yeah, I hear. Yep, I hear you.
I'm also not a fan that of the way that they're counting the number of affordable units. I think Pam mentioned that at the beginning. If you offer a certain percentage of units, then they all qualify. But that's not really solving a problem, right?
no,
I thought it was because they were rentals. Is that not why they're all considered affordable? Is it because they're rentals and not condos that you buy?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah. So total unit counts towards our subsidized housing inventory.
But is it because they're rentals or is it because
Yeah.
some percentage of, yeah, okay.
All 229 units count, only 58% are income restricted under the 40B guidelines.
Yeah.
So 58 of the 229 actually have to have qualifying occupants. And they have to be qualified on an annual basis.
They throw them out if they're not? I'm sorry.
No, but they can't they have to rotate where the affordable unit's located, so the next replacement unit has to be affordable. And the other tenant will experience a rate increase.
Pam, has there been a comparison of the rental rate for affordable housing and the corresponding at a reasonable mortgage rate of the purchase of a house or a condo of the same size?
In terms of rental versus mortgage,
Yeah,
I don't quite understand.
Bob, are you
We have to
asking?
use the same like monthly
yes,
expenses for mortgages versus rentals. So there's
That's
a
correct.
mortgage calculator that we have to use, and it'll take into account interest rates and PMIs and all
yep,
other types of expenses associated with mortgages, and that has to be capped at the same way that rentals are determined.
okay. So there is a reasonable comparison. Okay,
And then they work backwards to determine what the sale price
should be, right.
should be.
Okay, I look forward to reading it. Okay, you want to go on?
Just
Okay.
that, 130, this was interesting when we were talking about the seniors, 134 senior households in Bolton qualify for affordable housing.
And is that based on their income or is that based on what they're spending, presumably on their mortgage?
This is income.
Okay. I mean, I assume lots of people in Bolton who have been here for a long time and have paid off their house are, you know, a little bit trapped in the sense that to go somewhere else would be, you know, they have to take on a higher mortgage. But okay.
Well, you'll get that feedback from the COA. I can't afford to leave, I can't afford to stay.
Yeah, we're hearing a lot of that.
Yeah, well, my wife's on the board, so I hear a lot of it.
Just wanted to give you an update on that as we move forward. So you do have to approve the plan eventually.
Okay. I'll look forward to seeing it. Okay, review of minutes,
Yeah, I didn't get them ready
Okay.
in time.
with everything else you're doing, I can understand that.
We'll get caught up.
Good. Is there any other business?
I did have a question about Moderator Way. I remember back when that was an active project, there was discussion about there was road acceptance and there was also subdivision acceptance. And I was always under the impression that there were two separate things. Is that correct? Do you know, Pam? And it's like, do we have to do something to accept the subdivision?
No, when you make your recommendation, so that they're required to meet your conditions of approval for the subdivision. There's no formal vote of completion that you take unless you include it in your decision. And when you make your recommendation for street acceptance, that reflects that you feel the subdivision's in adequate condition for the town to take ownership.
Sure.
But it's not a bad thing to incorporate in conditions as we move forward and review additional subdivisions. Almost like a completion certificate is something that I've done in the past, just to review a final like certificate, which kind of gives the board's vote that everything has been in compliance with your conditions of approval, so there's some sort of document.
I mean, I think we did that with Moderator Way, and in fact, I think that's what we got hung up on at the end of it, is that we felt that the road was actually in decent shape, but the previous planner felt that the subdivision wasn't, mostly due to like runoff in people's yards and other things unrelated to the road, basically, but
Yeah, you shouldn't
Okay.
recommend street acceptance when there are conditions outstanding in the subdivision itself that aren't complied with, because then you lose your authority. Once you accept the roadway, that subdivision decision is kind of,
yes, and that's
Not
that's
enforceable.
exactly where we got
Yeah.
stuck on.
but
That was all I
it's in
had.
pretty good shape. We just have some minor things and we should have money to complete the work that needs to be done. I think those things come in often higher than you think sometimes.
Yeah. Yep.
But there's
Okay,
nothing detrimental to the infrastructure. It would be tree plantings and things like that, that we may, all the street trees were installed. There's just some buffering trees that weren't completed around the detention ponds.
that's been an outstanding issue for some time, hasn't it? I remember hearing about that.
I think so, yeah.
Some were done, some weren't done.
Some
completely.
died too, if I recall.
Some died, a bunch died.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So,
Okay. Any other business? I'm learning more and more every day about CMA.
Yeah.
It's not on a path to simplification either. What a challenge. Anyway, do I hear a motion for adjournment?
Motion to adjourn.
I'll second that. All in favor?
Aye.
All right.
Thank you all.
Thank you.
We'll see you at town
Everyone have a
meeting,
good
I
night.
guess, right? That's next place.
Yes,
Okay. All right. We'll talk
May
later.
4th. Thank you. Good night.